Okay, I got it working again. It was possibly something to do with my internet, but it was also something to do with my Twitch account going on. But yeah, we hit the end of the stream with some technical difficulties. I also, but I'm gonna do just like 10 minutes where I show the Danger Zone work, or the open source software design work. And it's probably, I probably got booted because, well, I hope that I got booted because I'm logging in and streaming from a completely different location, so it probably flagged me as like a concern, like a hack. Yet that was not a hack. But yes, I am unsure. I'm unsure what's going on, honestly. But yeah, I will see if I can connect. Aha! Ay. I just want to check that everything is okay using my other device. Everything's probably okay. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so oh good grief, there was there was like my stream, and then there was like a reconnection like for 49 seconds, and now there's this one. Perfect. Okay, love that for me. Sure. I mean, it do be like that sometimes, doesn't it? So we will persevere. Let's show some of the Danger Zone. Yeah, we're back. We had some severe technical difficulties, which will require some cleanup of my Twitch page afterwards, I'm sure. But we're gonna just do a little bit of we're gonna do a little bit of screen sharing just for the next like minute or so. But since I had to re-log into my Twitch, yeah. So let's talk about this piece of work that we did. So again, I'll try and drop this in the chat. Actually, I should hopefully be able to just drop it in the chat from Streamlabs. There we go. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Okay, we won't drop it in the chat. Everything's logged out and everything's having a moment. But we'll fix it after the stream. But you can find Danger Zone basically if you go on the Freedom of the Press Foundation's GitHub, and then find Danger Zone. Danger Zone is a really interesting tool. It uses OCR technology and various sandboxes to ingest a document, or you can basically, if you've got a document that you think might be infected in some way, might have malware, spyware, or whatever connected to it. You basically, if you have that file either on like a USB drive, a hard drive, or on your device, and you have not opened it because you don't want to open it, because what if opening it like runs the malware or spyware, then what you can do is you can put the document through Danger Zone, and Danger Zone will use various sandboxes virtual sandboxes to open that document. Use OCR like text scanning technology in order to make a copy of that document. Presumably then, well, not presumably, but then a document that is like a copy of that document that has none of the potential spyware or malware on the original document, and then it will categorize the original document as unsafe and categorize the danger zone sort of scanned file as safe. So then you can open the file knowing that there will be no spyware and malware in that file. It won't tell you whether or not that file had spyware and malware, because I don't think there's actually any tools that maybe can do that. There might be some antivirus or some companies that can detect spyware and malware in a file, but that's not what Dangerzone does. Dangerzone, basically, if you suspect and you want to just make sure that you don't risk opening a file, Dangerzone does that. We had 2 pieces of work. Pardon me, I've been so hungry, but also having such an evening of it this evening. Dangerzone had quite a kind of, I would guess you could say, a typical UI. If you you can go on Dangerzone.rocks to see the website. There were 2 pieces of work that we did as designers on this project. We worked on the interface of the tool, which I believe if you go currently onto not on that, but maybe the about. Yeah, so this is the existing UI. It kind of does the job essentially. You can upload upload or process a document. There are several kind of different settings that you can configure, and then you get sort of like a progress interface. There were a number of different things that we needed to improve on the UI here for people that were self-described non-technical or less technical than your average sort of open source kind of software person. We wanted to make sure that the GUI, the graphical UI, gave more information about the settings choices, but also more information about the processing of the documents. And also there were a number of features and improvements that the team were working on and wanted to make sure that was communicated well in the UI. One of which is being able to open a file as it's processing, so that you can see the elements of the document that have already been processed via OCR, but not the elements of the document that have yet to be processed. So this is the issue, essentially, that we sort of contributed to. And as I sort of said at the beginning of the other stream video, we were paid as an organisation to work on this. We worked with another organisation called OK Thanks. You can see our links here. Did we do research as part of this? Yes, we did. We did a little bit of research as part of this, if I can remember correctly. But yeah, there are a number of different kinds of pieces of UI, it seems like, and these were, this is such a wonderfully structured issue. Alex, well done. I only got to meet Alex a couple of times working on this, I think maybe once or twice, but anyway, what a wonderfully structured epic with all of these individual sort of issues for each kind of part of the interface. But we're going to have a little look at the penpot file now. So one of the tricky things about penpot is I was working with another designer at Superbloom, so actually links back to some of the stuff that I was talking about when I was looking at the canonical Ubuntu document there, is we were handing off to each other. So we were handing off design work in a process which was about working on different parts of the interface, or completely different. So at one point I was working on the website work, which is in one of the penpot pages here. So let me see if I can find the other website stuff. I eventually ended up moving into Figma for the website design. I'll actually open up the Figma file as well, just so that you all can see the website design as well. But at one point, both me and my colleague were working. I'll have to log into Figma. No, you don't install. Yeah, we were both working on the user interface. So some of the things that we started with, because this is quite a comprehensive like redesign of the UI, essentially. Not all open source design projects are about as much free reign as the Danger Zone team kind of gave us to really rework the UI, as well as some of the branding elements as well, because quite a lot of the interface was quite difficult. You can see this button here isn't really a good design for a button for a number of reasons. It has the same or a similar background color there. It doesn't have very good padding or spacing. It's got nice big text, but it also doesn't really necessarily tell you what's going to happen when you press that button. Like the things that tell you roughly what's going to happen when you press a button are things like arrows. If an arrow is facing that way, it tends to tell the user that you're heading to a new screen or a new page, essentially, and that's kind of one of the visual elements that is good UI design, if that is indeed what is going to happen when you press that button. If the button was going to do something like save some settings, you'd expect that it would have an icon of maybe the save file or another kind of piece of iconography that suggests that some other function is going to happen. So, you know, for a number of different reasons, there were things that we wanted to work on. So one of the first things that we do around a design project like this is do a catalogue of the existing design system. This is something that I've done ever since learning about Brad Frost's interface inventory. If you go into a search engine and type Brad Frost interface inventory, it's a really useful exercise to do when you start a design task. But I believe that this is actually some of the developed UI elements, because you can sort of see here we developed the button styling. Myself and my colleague, developed the button styling quite extensively, including sort of a slightly darker colour for a button that was not able to be pressed yet, a disabled button, buttons that are kind of active states, this orange and this white here, as well as some better sort of elements of the different kind of form fields or different kind of text link styles with different iconography going on here. So yeah, there are a number of different things that we ended up improving, including a series of UI icons, as well as what would it look like if we had graphical elements within the interface itself. And then it looks like there's also some good work done on spacing here, which I don't think I did. I think this is what my colleague did around spacing. My colleague was a lot better at using some of the functions in Penpot, which were about the flex layouts. So one of the nice things about Penpot is you can kind of make sure that everything, if you try and move something, it kind of snaps to a grid. Penpot has quite a robust series of like what code gets kind of spit out, terrible way of saying it, what code gets generated at the end of it, so that it's got a better kind of handoff between designer and developer here. You can work on a series of like layout elements over here in the Penpot section on the right hand side to align content, essentially. But yeah, one of the things that we did, one of the first things that we did around this Danger Zone piece of work is, one of the things that you did when you launched the tool is you didn't really get much information about what it was for. So imagine that you were a user that at one point visited this website or got told to download it. You're not always going to remember what the tool actually does, and especially if something's called Danger Zone, it's not a brand name that is descriptive of what you actually perform, the action that you perform as a user in a tool. I'm just going to double check that my stream is all okay, because I I'm making an assumption that everything's okay. No, it looks fine. But we introduced this welcome screen, and we also, when we spoke to the team, we also sort of said that this welcome screen doesn't necessarily have to be a screen that is always shown. It could be programmed in such a way that you get the welcome screen the first few times that you open and use this tool, and also if a certain amount of time elapses. So say you use it once and then you use it again a year later. By that time you will have forgotten what this tool does. Or you can re-access this welcome screen. Often it's a good design pattern to be able to re-access a welcome screen from, say, a settings menu, or even tutorial sections as well. But it also it gives an overview of how it works, and there's some better sort of hierarchy of the text going on here. One of the challenges that we had about doing the design in this is that, if I remember correctly, I won't be able to remember correctly the coding language that these native apps are like designed in, but they're not particularly friendly, for like messing around and with fonts and sizes and placement of elements. I suppose I could liken it to Swift, which is the language that you use to make native Apple programs. And Swift is notoriously difficult to like edit the interface or like program the interface. If you're given a design file that looks like this, you might be able to get 90% of the way there, 60% of the way there, with how it should look. So that should always be something that you're considering when you're doing design work. There are a few different ways that you can actually open Danger Zone, obviously. So you can open the program and drop a file in there, either by dragging and dropping or selecting a file from a browsing interface. But you can also use the right-click Open with Danger Zone, which is another kind of way of launching the interface, which would take you to an immediate process screen. So we wanted to make sure that those pathways for users were also serviced. So you can sort of see here on Penpot what we've done. You can see some of the quirky things about Penpot here as well. You can sort of see there's two sort of interface two sort of interface windows here that actually that one probably shouldn't. Oh gosh, maybe it should be there, but it kind of is a bit quirky, you can see. But anyway, sometimes design in software is an approximation of what you want it to look like and not a precise art. More often than not, it's an approximation, which is why I often, unless it's very critical for a design project for an open source software to have incredibly accurate like CSS code that comes out of the design file, I usually design in approximates and like the gists of like the idea of the interface, as opposed to specific like pixel, not that we always use pixel ratios, but the ratios of the sizing and things like that. So we made it so it was clearer that you could drag and drop elements in there. We also kind of gave you a way to access the settings in the menu that was different, a way to add in more documents. After you've added an individual document, we also kind of kept some of the pop-up language and access to more settings, and we made like the processing interface a little bit more informative, essentially, like whether or not one of the things that you could not do in the past interface is you can stop a document from being processed. So imagine you chose an incorrect document, imagine you chose a document that was huge, like hundreds of pages long. It would take longer to process. It wouldn't take particularly long time, but perhaps you wanted to chop up that document, or well, you wouldn't want to chop up that document into different sections because you don't want to open it because it's potentially infected, but you might want to start processing that document when you can leave your computer running with Danger Zone, perhaps, or process smaller documents first. So Danger Zone you're not able to swap your documents priority in the sort of processing list. So the ability to be able to stop a document from processing in the UI was really important, so that you could prioritize your documents within the current functionality that we had. We also gave better like feedback for what things were potentially going wrong in the the interface, and we also had a number of different like iterations of the settings. So there's this sort of settings screen here. There's a number of different things that are very quirky within the settings for like Danger Zone. One of the things is like whether or not you want to add the word safe to the new document that gets generated, either whether you want to add that to the beginning or the end of the file name. So originally it just adds it to the end of the file name. But in some interfaces, you might not actually see the end of the file name unless you're sort of clicking on it, because it might be quite a long file. So you actually might want to choose to add it to the start of each file name as opposed to the end. So there were a number of different like usability improvements that we think we made through like the UI and UX design here. And you can sort of see some of the things that happen with the expanding and contracting of things. And also this whole preview window was new. One of the design challenges here was also about like how do you allow people to be in a preview whilst other documents are currently processing in the UI, and how do you give feedback in such a tiny space of a UI. But in this penpot file, we've got like a number of different things. The team are incredibly pro open source, and so they knew that penpot isn't necessarily as currently as like say reliable as something like Figma that there were sort of quirky errors that would happen in penpot or things, we were also learning it as well, or learning how to use penpot as efficiently as we already know how to use Figma. But the team were very the Freedom of the Press Foundation were very happy and encouraging of us to learn how to better use penpot because it is an open source design tool. So we tried to use it for some of like our ideation space as well, so kind of like these sticky note spaces. These are some of like older flows of the interface that we've developed. You can sort of see roughly how like things developed over time when you look at like interfaces like this, and you can sort of see there was a design version that we worked on where one of the first things is that you choose your settings. So you familiarize yourself with the settings before you start processing a document, and there was a lot of conversation about whether or not users just want to start processing a document, or whether they want to really understand the settings of a document of what they're doing first. And here was all the existing screens. Oh, wait, no, so those are not the existing screens. These are some of the very first designs that we came up with that we used more of a native Apple design and coloration. And you can sort of see that there's this kind of standard header space, which we decided we didn't really need because at a certain point you don't need to remind people that they're on, this app here. It's just, it's wasted space if you're putting a logo there, unless it's really important that you remind them of what tool it is. But here is the original sort of flow. So this was the sort of very first screen. If you don't have Docker running, you need Docker running to be able to do that. Run Danger Zone and sort of like, so this is the first series of screens. So we improved the onboarding quite a bit. And then there's the website interface work that we looked at. And also any designer you would hope will start with like inspiration. So we looked at a lot of different kinds of tools that not only like native tools for the different operating systems. Just gentle reminder that Danger Zone runs in multiple different operating systems, not just Mac OS and Windows, but Ubuntu, Debian, Linux, Fedora, Tails, other Linux and Cubes. Lots of different operating systems, so there was lots of different operating systems to consider, which is one of the reasons why we didn't end up going with native designs, because native designs would then be inconsistent as a sort of branded tool. So it's good that we ended up going with a consistent design agnostic of the native operating system style. But yeah, we started by gathering a lot of like file processing interfaces, which isn't necessarily like the coolest kind of design that you can kind of look at. But you can also see here this Danger Zone UI was some of the first sort of cataloging here of like the design system and the development of the design system, but also some of the repeating elements that we would use in our design. So one of the things that I did first before handing off to my colleague is started to just create these components in Penpot that could be reusable. And I believe at a certain point we ended up with a lovely like shared asset library of colors, also an icon library, and lots of different components here. I think they are. Here's all the different components. The tricky thing about components is I found that one of the difficult things here is about using it with the flex layout. So with the flex layout set by another person, it's not as easy to move UI elements around if something's not quite working, because things snap to the kind of set grid. So I found myself unmaking the flex layout and then remaking the flex layout quite a lot if I was still unsure as to where certain elements needed to go in the UI, or we were unsure where certain elements needed to go in the UI as a team. But yeah, these are some of the sort of very first sort of sets of designs here. Or actually it kind of looks like that those are quite advanced ones. I think that down here you might sort of see the older designs with some of the native elements. You say sort of big buttons here if you wanted to go one way or the other. Ways to edit file names that we looked at. Oh, here's like some original designs about like big buttons for functions, and then what it might look like for selected documents, and then to see documents processing with like a little loading bar. So yeah, you can see some of the different things. But you can also see one of the things that we had a lot of challenges with in Penpot is Penpot's commenting system. We used it quite a lot asynchronously with the team to feedback on design work. One of the tricky things is when you move a canvas in Penpot, the comments aren't sticky, or or if they are, we weren't using the sticky comments correctly. So it was quite tricky to find which comment went with which piece of UI if we accidentally moved, or not accidentally, on purpose moved a canvas. But yeah, and you can sort of see some of the complexities about using multiple boards in Penpot. So you kind of get this Penpot UI of like the board is this sort of like element here, and there's another element here which is a board, which is like the structure of the UI, but it's quite distracting when it's there, essentially. Anyway, I really hope that I haven't accidentally been on Big Cam. No, I haven't. Great. And I have been kind of sharing my screen. So that's like some of the work on Danger Zone that we did in the UI. I'm going to go into more detail on another stream about like how we kind of like developed that UI, but I kind of just wanted to give a little overview of things. Oh, we had Tomazu in the stream when I was talking about Danger Zone. Hey, it's nice to see you. Curious how many you can potentially put. Is there a limit? Sorry, Diaz, what was that in reference to in Penpot? Is it like how many designs that you can have? Or like UIs or pages? Because the answer to many of those questions are there is no limit, but then your Penpot will lag like it at different times as well. So it sort of depends, because Penpot is I use the browser version of Penpot. Sorry, I'm on Big Cam. So I use the browser version of Penpot. So Penpot is accessed through like the hosted version of Penpot on Penpot's servers. We don't have Superbloom have yet to deploy our own open source instance of Penpot so that we can kind of use it in that way and host it ourselves. I don't think we would intend to because of the maintenance effort there. But we're happy to use the browser version. The browser version is good enough for certain projects. But there is a desktop app that a open source software contributor made for Penpot. So somebody wanted like a desktop app, like you can get the desktop app for Figma of Penpot. So that's really cool. So lots of contributions are happening to Penpot as a tool. I'm sorry you had a bad morning. Like more like documents, is there a recommend? Oh, in Danger Zone. No, so Danger Zone won't, as a tool, Danger Zone won't limit like your documents, like how many you sort of queue up. If I can remember correctly, like it takes seconds to process a, say, 10-page document full of text and possibly diagrams. So, you know, we're not talking like hours of time to process a document. We're talking maximum minutes, depending on the complexity of a document that you're trying to process through Danger Zone. But yeah, there's no limit to how many documents you can sort of run through Danger Zone. It won't sort of tell you stop. It will just be a case of then having to do the file management afterwards. So one of the kind of quirky things about Danger Zone, I don't know if this is going to be fixed in a future kind of iteration of Danger Zone, is sometimes it will make multiple folders labeled safe and labeled unsafe, and move the the suspected infected document into that unsafe folder. So you may end up with lots of unsafe folders created by Danger Zone if you are running multiple files through it. It's possible that there might be a limit, but we didn't find the limit when we were doing our testing. I'm sure that if there is a limit, the devs have for Danger Zone have kind of run simulations and probably documented that somewhere. But yeah, the assumption is that you can run like documents of hundreds and hundreds of pages through it. It's a nifty little tool. It's a really cool tool, Danger Zone. I think it's really fantastic. It does a great service for people, or anybody that suspects that malicious documents that might be sent. Originally, it was kind of made for journalists that get like news outlets, and journalists often have like a tip line email. So like tips at news website name, whatever, and so that's kind of like an open email, hopefully often secured via like what's it called, PGP, some kind of security mail protocol. But yeah, it sometimes journalists get, you know, throwaway emails, throwaway email account with documents attached, and you will never know whether that is a malicious document or not, a document that has like spyware or malware. So it's always better to be safe than sorry. Usually I would end a stream a little bit more friendly than just like straight up like, but yeah, this is the first time I've had like some severe technical difficulties, and it's kind of understandable given that I'm running off of like a portable Wi-Fi. The name Danger Zone is so funny. Let me, while I'm on Big Cam, just really quickly log into Figma, and I can show you some of the website design work that I did, because I'm really proud of the website design branding work that I did. And we did suggest that the team could consider renaming Danger Zone from Danger Zone. It's a reference to the song Danger Zone that you are indeed thinking about, if you know that song. But it doesn't necessarily clearly explain like what the actual tool is trying to do. It's actually trying to keep you safer. So we did actually we suggested multiple other names, but it's recognizable for current users as Danger Zones. So there is no intention to move over anytime soon. So let me just get rid of some of the stuff that y'all shouldn't hopefully see. Let me see. Gosh, how do I get rid of this? How do I get rid of this in I guess I can't get rid of it. Thanks, Figma. So I'll share my screen again. No, that's the incorrect thing to share. Oh God, this is fine. It's fine. Okay, so this is some of the work that we did for the Danger Zone website. Briefly, so we looked at a series of like iconography to make sure that icons that were used were reasonably consistent if they were used from different places. All of these icons were mostly found on the Noun project from different users, but we feel like they all, like, some of the thickness of the lines was a little bit different, but this is like an example of a radix UI icon as opposed to one from the Noun project. But here we let the team know that the cost of the license to use this icon, where they could do that. We then I created like this little tutorial for all the imagery for the website. So some of the designs for the website, I won't bring up the website, but hopefully you can remember. But the website hopefully will at some point look a little bit more like this, and include some of like these imagery elements that we developed, that I developed as part of the work, so that I was doing. So using photography, but also some of the elements of the Danger Zone branding, and also some iconography to kind of communicate what Danger Zone does, but also just bringing in some iconography to kind of break up the multiple uses of kind of black and white photography. But there was also a couple of little characters that I made of different kinds of malwares that you can, or spyware, or just malicious things that you could have. So this is a spyware. Little spyware guy. I'm going to gender these little characters, and this is a sort of piece of malware or bad software that copies your document and sends it somewhere else when you open it, or like some kind of like document copier, like makes a copy of your document, sends it to the people that are trying to spy on you. So this is kind of like document copier. Nasty guy. And then this is nasty location stealer. So this is like if your document has some kind of malware in it, or some kind of spyware in it that tracks your location and sends it to somebody. So we created, there's the potential for like characters to kind of give things a little bit of a fun element. But here's like the tutorial about making like the hero images. So you would find a piece of photography that you do the cut out. You change it from color to black and white, but you also increase the contrast. And then after you've done like that piece of work with the photography, and there's a number of different like examples that I created that are ready to use here, is you sort of made a composite image, and the images all had like a certain number of elements. So it would always include the Danger Zone lightning bolt. It would always include like this these sort of they're not necessarily sensor bars, but they're kind of protection bars. So we think of them as like the bars that censor offensive imagery or like redacted text, but in this case they're protecting the identity of the person from bad things. So it's only ever, you can sort of see, it's only ever used on sort of like eyes or facial elements if there is a face in the hero image. It doesn't always have to have a face. So it's about protecting that person. And then some kind of like element around files or folders, or like sometimes the people involved, but all the photography is like photography to do with journalism or technology or something like that, or documenting essentially. And then there are some images that can also include text or elements of the Danger Zone UI that we worked on inside them. So hopefully it would end up that the website looks more like this. Carrie at OK Thanks worked on a lot of the overarching structure of the website redesign, whereas I worked on these kind of detailed branding elements. Yeah, so that's the last thing that I kind of wanted to show. The reason that this went over into a Figma file is because OK Thanks were much more comfortable using Figma than Penpot, and Penpot was kind of at a point where it was entirely too laggy or too complicated to use with an external person. So there's a little bit of open source design contribution. Maybe next time I'll talk about what it's like to, I suppose, the differences between open source software contributions that are for free and then these kind of paid contributions. But I'm going to end the stream there. Well over an hour and a half, although probably more like an hour and a half with the technical problems that we had. And I'll clean up the Twitch VODs and upload 2 VODs afterwards. I hope you all enjoyed listening to some open source design actual, like, sometimes Errol will stream about the actual design work that they do, as opposed to the maintenance of design communities that they also do. So I thought it was well overdue for Errol to actually show some of Errol's, like, design work. It's been a while. Yeah, so I'm going to end the stream here. I'm going to go cook my dinner and do some more work. Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad you had fun, Diaz. I'm really pleased. Yeah, I will see you all at the next one. Okay.